the building industry is one of the oldest ones, right? I was actually researching in the last few weeks when was the first time that someone found floor plans for any given building. And it was about 9,000 years ago.
Welcome to Hive Podcast. Today we're going to discuss the intersection of smart home design as well as interior design. And I'm pleasure to have here with me today a dear friend of mine and designer, Ari Levy from Levy Design Group. Thanks so much for being here today, Ari.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's a pleasure.
Well, let's jump right in. I want to discuss what do you see as the trends for 2024 in smart home technology design as well as interior design?
Well, I would say that it is definitely a special year. After what happened, in the last few years, we are experiencing a blend of maximalism with minimalism. And there's very clean lines and suddenly a burst of color, very unique trends. And at the same time, I have been constantly asked for something organic, more bio-friendly. So we are implementing that a lot in the latest projects.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Also, what do you see happening with the trends with like smart home technology? When you're as a designer, are your clients calling for any of the smart home needs to be incorporated with the interior design? Are you seeing any trends in that area?
Yeah, they don't necessarily ask for them. They actually assume that they should be there. So one of the things is things are becoming very simple, right? And this trend with organic design actually brings that simplicity of life. So what they want is to actually have a house that looks like, you are in a very natural space. And then they expect to say something just like they say to their smartphone and have the house interact with them like that.
Wow. What are you seeing on the front with like interior design, lighting control, any of that? Is that changing any, or have you seen any involvement in that? Because I know it's kind of been the craze with LEDs over the last, couple of years. What are you seeing on that front?
Well, on that front, I would say that lighting is as important as it always has been. We can pick a beautiful countertop, we can pick a beautiful finish, but with bad lighting, that gets ruined, right? If you're at night, you need to consider things daytime and nighttime. So when we have an ambience created at night, people are actually very comfortable. When there's only LEDs, just because they are sold in Home Depot and they say like, okay, this one is cheaper, then the quality of the LEDs, there's so many kinds of them that I always tell them like, hey, let me know which ones you are going to pick, because there's different colors, sometimes they don't match, and well, more, right? Mm-hmm. But it is something that is not only important, but completely necessary.
I have a personal question I want to ask, just a fun one.
Yeah.
How do you establish a budget for a client, when it comes to even the interior design, especially like different things that you incorporate, like you mentioned, lighting and, smart home technology with interior furnishings and things. How do you establish a budget for a client?
Yeah, well, it has two sides in the same spectrum or scale. It has two sides. The first one is the realistic one, right? They know exactly how much they have to spend. And then the other side is they actually know what they're dreaming of, right? So let's call it ideal and realistic. So what we do is we work towards the ideal and then bring it down to the realistic. So that's a very good formula, because if we start with real and only stick to that, then the client actually doesn't fulfill his goals. So they're investing this money that is very real, but at the end they don't have the result. So they actually keep dreaming about the next house and the next house. So I always try to create a balance between ideal and realistic.
Awesome. And one other thing, I know many times in the past with multiple designers that I've worked with, I've noticed, I'd love you to tell our audience a little bit more about your technology that you incorporate actually in your design process. So
Yeah.
not only is I'm known for being the technology guy, but you're one of the most forward technological designers that I work with. So tell us a little bit about, you know, how you've incorporated in what you do in your design with technology.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, thank you for that. I definitely try to stay in the front lines of that. And one of the things is, so the building industry is one of the oldest ones, right? I was actually researching in the last few weeks when was the first time that someone found floor plans for any given building. And it was about 9,000 years ago. So yeah.
Well,
There's this design of this placement of stones, and in one of the stones they found the placement of the rest of the stones in a drawing, and it was a top view drawing showing this stone goes here, the next one here, and the next one here.
oh, wow.
So it's amazing, right? Then we fast forward centuries, and then we find, you know, the latest technology that was CAD files, right? Instead of the person sitting down and saying, okay, this line goes here, oh, oops, this is a mistake, I need to restart all the floor plans. Instead of that, you actually have CAD, computer-aided design. So AutoCAD and all of these softwares actually took over the whole industry, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the most leading technology that most firms have right now. But wait, there's so much more out there, right? We have sensors, scanners, AI. We have all of these things that we see applied to everything else but the building industry. So what I do is I actually compiled all these elements and put them in technology applied to design. So we actually go to the house, scan it with a specialized 3D scanner, then create the 3D model, and then we can interact with the client in 3D in real time to change whatever they have in their mind. Then the last thing is to represent everything on floor plans. So it's actually a more complete process, and the client is fully informed about what's happening, right? They can see their design in a dollhouse. And most importantly, the communication is not only between the client and I. How many people have you seen in a work site working on the same project?
Oh,
Sometimes
wow.
like 50.
Yeah, at least, yeah, dozens.
They need to be on the same page, right? How do you put everyone on the same page? Not everyone is going to look at the floor plan before their day starts. If you have an image, a rendering, 3D rendering, they can actually look at it and think, is what I'm doing actually aligning to that image, or is this kind of weird? You know, so there's alignment, there's technology, and you know, I could talk about this for hours, but that's my brief answer.
Well, that's awesome. Because listen, I've experienced it, and that's why I wanted our audience to know, because I've seen the process where you have all those dozens of trades out there making their measurements and also sometimes making their mistakes, right? So with your technology, I know firsthand how many hours of time it saves from having the flooring guy and the cabinet guy and the guy that's doing the painting or the texturing or the Venetian plaster on the wall, whatever those techs, you know, coming into the home have to make the measurements. It really makes that process much faster and much more accurate, you know, and anybody saving time, saving everybody money, and especially if you wanted to go out and have 3 people bid your price on your floor, you know, and I got to have 3 different flooring guys come in and measure my floor and, you know, find out one made a mistake and that's why he was $2,500 cheaper, only to be the end result where there are price corrections or surprises at the end. So that's why I definitely wanted you to share more about that. So thanks. Anything else on the technology side that you're looking at embarking on in this new year? That you're starting to incorporate that you haven't? Anything that you haven't shared with me that I haven't seen firsthand?
I think that honestly, in terms of technology and everything that we use for our projects, the guidance that you have actually given me in terms of things that I wish that they were more beautiful. For example, those vitria plates, right? I was always dreaming for a lighting switch that was actually like flush and glass and you could touch almost like in a movie, right? And when we installed the vitrea plates on that beautiful house, I cannot tell you the next time that I arrived there and I clicked one of the scenes that has the name, and I think it said Friday night, and it started playing music, brought all the lights down, and the kitchen island was only like highlighted by that light. I was like, man, this feels like a Friday night.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that all of us are like on the phone, like trying to be as fast as we can, right? We're very used to speed right now. So sometimes we don't stop to say, okay, how would I like my current scene to be, right? So you don't go to the wall and say like, hey, that light should be like 70% down, and then I'm going to play music, and then I'm going to call my wife to have a, no, we don't do that. We say like, okay, honey, let's have some wine, right? So this actually helps with that speed, because it's something that you know that you like, you click on that, and it basically creates the whole scene. So as far as technology, I see it as the, let's say, front end. What I do would be the front end, which is the prediction technology, and then it merges to what Hive does, which is the actual technology. And I love that, because at the end, we're actually taking advantage of all these tools that we have, and how much it can improve our lives is like, you know, it improves my mood at least, and it's amazing.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Is there anything else that you see that you'd like to point out to our audience that they need to be thinking with when they're designing their own home, whether it be a renovation, a remodel? Is there anything now in 2024 that you'd say, hey, listen, don't miss these 1, 2, 3 things in your design process that are often overlooked? Because I will tell you, in my world, oftentimes I'm now talking to our clients about lighting, right?
Yeah.
And really the merge between the technology and the design is becoming so much more intimate than it used to be. It used to be kind of like you hired the audio video guy and you had a beautiful decorator and designer and they made everything look beautiful. And then these were the jerks that came in later and, you know, put these ugly speakers here, and so there's a real convergence that's been taking place. Is there anything else that you tell your clients, make sure not to miss these elements in your remodel or your new construction design?
Yeah, it would be like in one word, it would be ask, right? I have seen this happening a lot. When someone is trying to renovate their house, the first thing that I have seen is like they get in the couch or like something, right? And then they go to Pinterest, and then the client starts to make a board, inspiration board, and all the dreams are poured into this board, and they really want to have all these things. Then whoever they hire to fulfill that vision is going to adjust or adapt the vision to the design, right? Then it goes to the builder. And there is a very big gap sometimes between the mentality of a designer and the mentality of a builder. One of them is more, you know, beauty and more ideal, and the other one is very realistic and very to the point. And there's nothing wrong with either or. Actually, both of them combined are the best suit. But if someone is actually about to renovate their house and they feel like they're between two teams, like the designer versus the builder versus Hive versus, that's the wrong viewpoint. You should always surround by people that you can ask them questions and they're going to give you a straight answer. Hey, why is this impossible? Well, there's two ways of building this, right? With this plate here and this column here, or this other one. This other one is out of your budget, but I could make it, right? That's an actual answer with specific things. So whenever any client has a question, they should ask and they should expect a very straight answer. And if they have more tools, design tools that are per definition planning ahead of time, if they have more tools, then there's less asking and less assumption, which assumption is what kills every project. And you have probably seen someone being slapped with change orders. The change order was probably completely valid, right? But why did they receive the slap? Because they didn't see it coming. So asking, communication, and being on the same team.
That's awesome. We're going to have to highlight that assumption. It's funny you say that about change orders. I remember, it's not funny, but it was funny at the time, but it was a big yacht and there was a little dinghy next to it. And the little dinghy had the name Original Contract. And the big yacht was called Change Order. And I saw that years ago. So yeah. I definitely know what you mean. Yeah. It can really ruin the experience. And I will say this, and this is not a advertisement and promotion for you, but one thing I have said when referring clients that we have over the years is that when you deal with Ari, he's the guy that you're going to love day one. And very seldom do you see designers, builders, and clients at the end of the project still having that much love in the relationship, because it's the change orders, it's the unexpected. And when you really treat your clients forthright and honest and upfront and let them know some of the things that there are going to be some unforeseen things, and to expect that and to even budget for that, it makes for a much, much better relationship, because nobody likes surprises. It's funny, one of the things I incorporated over the years in my business, right now today in my agreement, it's literally called the Hive No Surprises policy. Because I always joke, but I don't have x-ray vision. I can't see where the plumbing comes down that wall, and when we go to run a wire, we can't get down through the wall for whatever reason. So there are unforeseen things, and I think, you know, majority of the time clients are totally understanding of that, but it's also being right up front with them and letting them know. So I love that approach. Before I turn it over, Ari, to our audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. We'd love to answer them, and we will individually get through every one and follow up with you. One of the last things I'd have for you is, how do we know, like, future proofing, if you will? We get that question a lot of times in our world, but where you're mixing like elements of technology with your design, whether it be, again, lighting, the touchscreens, the wall plates like you talked about for lights, how do you ensure that this is not just something that's cool and trendy this week, and then we're going to look back, you know, a couple of years from now and it's like the avocado appliances or the shag carpet? How do you get that timeless look and appeal? Or are you seeing any of that's not trendy and it could be timeless? What would you say to that if a client asks you as far as, you know, the future proofing of the look?
Well, that's a very interesting question. So there's three things, right? It's there's the past, there's the present, and the future. So the only thing that is not going to change, and let me ask you a question. When someone has a habit, right? How often do you see people changing how they behave day to day?
Seldom.
Yeah, right. So all the technology that I present to the clients is actually for them. There's a misconception in any technology for a house that the technology is for the house, right? And then you have people asking like, hey, is this going to be trendy in 5 years or not? Because they're thinking with the wrong approach. The right approach is any smart solution that I present to my clients needs to respond to their habits every single time. So that's how it's going to improve their life, right? So if they tell me like, Harry, hey, this is going to be like completely dated in a couple of years. Well, number one, I know that it's not going to be. But number two, the basic function of that technology will be completely valid for them and how they live their daily life for 5, 10, or 15 years. We just need to make sure that they're not choosing something that is just, you know, some sort of gadget that they don't really care about and they saw at their neighbor's house. That's the only thing that I really pay close, like that I really ask them, like, hey, is this something that you are actually going to use? Or is it something that you think it's nice for your house? So that way, you know, I know that they're not going to change too much. And that way I know that it's going to be there for their future.
Awesome. That's an awesome viewpoint. Well, listen, I really want to thank you so much for being with me here today. If you have any questions for myself, Jeff Harris at Hive, don't hesitate to ask them or leave them in the comments below. If you have any questions for my dear friend here, Ari Levy, please feel free to leave them in the comments below as well, and I'll make sure that Ari gets them and he responds to you. My name is Jeff Harris. I'm the beekeeper here at Hive.
And my name is Ari Levy, and I am the founder of Levy Design Group.
If you enjoy the content that we're bringing you here on design and smart home technology, please do me a huge favor and subscribe below. This is how we are able to bring you better content each and every week. Please do us the favor, subscribe below. Thank you so much.